and welcome to the latest episode of Flickering Dreams. I'm Emma from Emma at the Movies, and I'm afraid that this week you're stuck with me hosting while Bob is away on holiday again. Joining me is Andy Godfrey of Sorted Magazine and Connect Radio, and Scott Forbes of the Forms Film and TV Review on Facebook. We've got 6 films to talk about this week, and we're going to kick off with returning franchise in the cinemas at the moment. Andy, do you want to introduce The Exorcist Believer?
Yeah. So a few weeks ago, some of us were at the British Film Institute for a 50th anniversary screening of The Exorcist. 50 years later, the demon is back. Here's a clip.
Out there in those woods.
You were just walking and walking. Oh, I remember.
Angela, can you tell your dad how long you were gone?
A few hours.
Baby, you've been gone 3 days.
Hey, baby. You okay?
Wherever those girls went, they brought something back with them.
The body and the blood of Jesus Christ.
Body in the blood? Body in the blood? Catherine. Body in the blood. The body in the blood. The body and the blood! Catherine! The body and the blood! The body and the blood!
Delightful.
Absolutely. So the first thing to say about this is that it's really not very good. They've brought back Ellen Burstyn from the first film, who was, of course, Reagan's mother. What surprised me watching The Exorcist with an audience for the first time a few weeks ago was how well that film stood up. You know, it's got some very memorable moments. It's still got some moments that will shock. It's still got some moments that will stun you. It's still got moments that horrify you, even after repeated viewings. This, I don't ever want to see again, because frankly, it's rubbish. So we have we have a father at the beginning of the film who's out on an adventure with his wife and daughter. His wife gets injured. Basically, does he choose to save his wife or does he choose to save his daughter? He chooses to save his daughter. When his daughter is grown up, she meets a girl from a nearby Roman Catholic church, and the two of them go out into the woods to perform a ceremony to try and contact the first girl's dead mum, if you're still with me. This results in them opening up a doorway to hell and the demon coming back to... Now, as far as I can tell, there's one demon, but he sort of jumps between the two girls. It was never made clear if there were two demons or just the one returning demon from the first one. So that's one of the film's problems. Plot-wise, you've got the same demon seemingly inhabiting two bodies this time. And eventually they realise that these girls have become possessed, and they call for Ellen Burstyn's character because, of course, she's used to this sort of thing, having witnessed her daughter go through it. A whole group of people gather around these two girls. Ellen Burstyn, a priest, some supernatural investigators, their friends. Everybody has a go at trying to exorcise the demon. Every single one of them uses the line, "The power of Christ compels you." Every single one of them, whether they're qualified or not, says, "I command you to come out." Actually, even those who don't believe in God are saying, "The power of Christ compels you. I command you in the name of God to come out," which rather puzzled me as well. The special effects are pretty poor. I mean, I thought that the special effects from 50 years ago, which were done physically, as opposed to these which are done CGI, was so much better. You know, I really did believe that Reagan's bed was jumping up and down in her bedroom. I really did believe she was levitating because they did it for real. This looks like they're up against a green screen all the time and that stuff's being added in. So it's not very good. It's a sequel to The Exorcist, but I didn't believe in it because I just thought the story was really poor. Poor old Ellen Burstyn. What happens to her is incredible. And they've tried to sort of bring it full circle with an end scene, which I won't spoil. But there is something that happens right at the end of this film, and you're supposed to go, "Oh, isn't that lovely?" By which time, actually, you've only just woken up because you've been falling asleep through the film. It's not scary. I mean, the first film, Bob and I were both in the same audience of that 50th anniversary screening. we were both surprised at how many times people chuckled and laughed. And it's nervous chuckling. It's nervous laughing, you know, during the first film. This, you just laugh at it. I mean, this, you just say, this is preposterous. I can see the green screen. I can see this terrible, confusing script. One demon and two girls. They have to choose which one lives and which one dies, and neither of them want to go to hell. It's all very, very confusing. The plot doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And I did feel sorry for poor old Ellen Burstyn being brought back. I can only assume she did it for the money, because I can't think she did it for the love of the project at all. It's not very good. It's not scary. It's not jumpy. It's a sequel to The Exorcist that should never have been made. Frankly, the TV series was so much better, and that was pretty poor. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm glad I took your advice then and didn't. Well, I say advice. It's not good, and I didn't go.
I've been quite kind to it compared to my friend Mark Kermode, because I mean he had get on YouTube and look up Mark's review of Exorcist Believer. He's so knowledgeable about The Exorcist. I mean, let's face it, he was the guy responsible for finding missing scenes in the first film. He knows it backwards. Considers it the greatest movie ever made. He's wrong, but he considers it the greatest movie ever made. He's so scathing about this, and he's absolutely right. The plot makes no sense whatsoever. And to see a Catholic priest allowing an amateur archaeologist who doesn't believe in God to perform an exorcism and to be involved, you just go, no, this doesn't make any sense at all. So avoid at all costs and, you know, stick with The Exorcist. Unless you're in for a laugh and you fancy something, but really it's not very good.
Scott, did you end up seeing this?
I didn't manage to catch this one in the end.
No.
I think a bit like The Nun, I might just leave it.
I mean, I said a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, I'm still yearning for a horror film to come out that's really going to give me the creeps, that's really going to scare me. I said a few weeks ago, the last one that did that for me was Mother, the Jennifer Lawrence film. That film really got under my skin and still does. I haven't seen a horror film since that really, you know, gets under your skin and makes you crawl and makes you squirm in your seat. And certainly Exorcist Believer is not that film.
I do also hate to say it, but I think I read somewhere that Blumhouse paid so much for this that they had to say they'd do a trilogy.
Yes. I mean, the sequel has already been announced, Emma. So the sequel is,
that.
You know, it's called we've even got a release date. So the next film is going to be called Exorcist Deceiver, and it's scheduled to be released on April the 18th, 2025. Put the date in your diary now, folks. Make sure that you're doing a bob and you're away on holiday. So it's called Exorcist. I mean, the film made in America around $52 million. It reasonable, not great box office, reasonable. But I think we sometimes do the top 10 on the podcast here. I can't see it being if it's in the top 10 this week, I should be very surprised, because word of mouth alone has been terrible on it. And I just went to see it for the sake of having something to do, to be honest.
Dare I ask what you're going to score it, Andy?
My word. Well, the score's quite good. So they do reuse Tubular Bells, which I quite like. And I was at a concert the other week with Tubular Bells Reimagined. For using Tubular Bells, 4. That's it.
Right. 4. Wow. So
terrible.
Thankfully, that makes it a bit of a miss there, by the sounds of it.
Absolutely. Avoid at all cost.
I might wait until the third one comes out and then binge watch them all at the same time. So that's like 5 years off, maybe.
That's a night to look forward to.
So the next film up is called Totally Killer. It's a new comedy horror on Prime. In 1987, the Sweet 16 killer went on their first spree, killing 3 local high school girls. 35 years later, Jamie's only course of action is to head to the past to find the killer and stop the newest murder from happening. Here's a clip.
I'd like to report a crime that hasn't happened yet. Have you seen the movie Back to the Future? Basically, I'm living that movie right now, which is how I know there's going to be a murder tonight.
Hate time travel movies. They never make any sense.
Happy Halloween.
How about we all stay in and hand out Halloween candy?
No, Mom.
You know how hard this time of year is for us. Your friends were murdered 35 years ago. It's not 1987 anymore.
Stay safe, honey. I love.
So, yeah, Totally Killer is led by Kiernan Shipka, who played Sabrina in The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina on Netflix. And honestly, I only put a little bit of the clip in, but it is just funny all the way through. I normally wouldn't recommend people watch films on their phone, but because I had a lot of commuting to do, I downloaded it onto my phone and I watched it. And the instant it finished, I just thought to myself, when I get home, I'm going to watch that on the telly because it was that good. It's a lot of retro vibes, which we know I like. A little bit of nostalgia, but thankfully, I'm not old enough to have suffered the big hair and the shoulder pads, so that was a little bit of relief. And you get lots of callbacks to obviously the differences between the 80s and present day. And it is a little shocking. I think the main highlight is she says, "Oh, can you tell me? I need to know this bit of information," or "You need to do this," and everyone's just like, "Yeah, whatever. Yeah, you know." They don't need to ask you security questions or double check who you are. They'll just take you at your word. So you get a lot of her reactions to how different things are, which I think it does work really well with it. It is very Back to the Future-y. They mention it a lot. And then they do also like mirror some of the different plot points in it as well, which is quite nice to see. And I have to say, for a slasher movie, despite it sort of copying various bits here and there, it doesn't feel like it's like any other movie. Like, you know, watching it, you think, oh, it's a bit like Freaky, it's a bit like The Final Girls. And it is, but also it's nowhere near as cheesy. It actually felt like a spoof without being a spoof. All that acting was really solid. I thought, you know, they took enough inspiration from things to, you know, pick out the good points, but then not so much that it's just exactly like everything else, which was a real pleasant surprise. Yeah, so I really enjoyed watching that today, and I will be watching it after this recording is done again. So would absolutely
I think I'll be watching it now.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm tempted too.
yeah.
It is. It's just like light-hearted. I say light-hearted horror. Is that a thing?
That could be a thing.
Well, they're
it was
taking the
like-
mick with Exorcist believers.
Very much chalk and cheese, I think, with these two films. But it just watching it, I was thinking I could see myself like inviting my friends around, getting a takeaway, and just sitting, watching, laughing. You know, so definitely good one to watch. So that just came out on Prime, so well worth checking out. How many am I going to give it? I tried to make a note of this before, and I was like, I don't think I can give it a 10, so I'm going to go 9. You know, just for balance. It's fine. So, that makes Totally Killer a hit. So definitely check that one out instead of going to the cinema to see The Exorcist Believer.
Definitely. Much better use of time.
Definitely. So I think the next one we've got is another streamer. This one's from Netflix, and that's Keys to the Heart. So Scott, this is one you caught this week, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, that's right. So Keys to the Heart is a Filipino movie which is about a family that are estranged, and they come together when the matriarch of the family is ill but hiding that fact. Here's a clip.
Alam mo, tapos ka na, Joma. Maghanap ka na ng ibang matutuluyan.
Hindi pa rin ba siya napatawad? Wala akong nanay.
Anak. So, Kuya Joma mo.
Kuya Joma mo, opo.
Kahit kakaiba yan, napakabait niyan. Di ba, JJ?
Ano naman?
Uy, kahit ganun yan pinapakinggan lang niya ang isang kanta ng isang beses, kaya niyang patutugin ng plakadong-plakado.
Hingi sana kami ng tulong para makapasok si JJ sa contest na to.
Hindi ito perya for freaks like him.
Pero sobrang pasasalamat ko na nakita kita ulit at na may kapatid na ngayon si JJ.
So, sorry to everyone on the audio version of that. But Scott, what was that one like?
This was absolutely wonderful. So this film, we see the mother called Sylvia, who is played by Dolly De Leon. Some people might recognise her name from last year. She was part of the sort of awards conversation for a film called Triangle of Sadness. I didn't see that film, but I know that she was getting a lot of hype for it. So she has a son, JJ, who is autistic, and she has another son, Joma, who she's estranged from. Now, we find out early on that there's something wrong medically with her, and when this happens, she goes seeking Joma and essentially gets him to be a bit more part of their life and trying to look after JJ a bit more. I think obviously she's thinking ahead to what might happen and what JJ might need. The relationship is quite fractious. We don't know exactly why to begin with, but we learn that a bit more as the film goes on. And this film, it mixes pathos and humour really well. With JJ, he is autistic and he does a lot of funny things and has a lot of funny lines, which I don't know if some people might find inappropriate, but I enjoyed it for the humour. I think it was well intended, all of the lines that they went down with this. Maybe one scene that went a little too far, but I still found it funny. The thing about JJ is he is an incredibly talented pianist, and he has this skill where he can hear something once and then he's able to replicate it, no matter how difficult it is. So you've got that autistic savant type of characteristics going on there. But the relationship between the two brothers were amazing. The way that Joma and his mother bond over some quite difficult things from their history was very moving. And then the actual music throughout, we get a lot of amazing classical music, either in the score or through JJ playing. You saw, or you heard a little bit in the clip there. There's a lot of amazing piano music. There was one thing that was a little bit distracting. I don't know if this is more a British thing, but the theme tune that they use for The Apprentice, the dun 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 dun, they play that quite a lot in this film. And there's points as well where like someone's walking out to a car and it's playing, and I'm just imagining, oh, that's Alan Shearer in that car. And it was distracting in a way that just to a British audience that knows The Apprentice over here will be distracted by it. But I don't want to criticise the film for that, because I'm assuming it is quite a very popular piece of classical music away from The Apprentice. I think the only real downside to this film, apart from the overuse of that song, was they should have cut it off about maybe 3 or 4 minutes earlier than it did. There's a little bit towards the end where they try to wrap up a sort of subplot where I was like, that little bit didn't need wrapped up. It had a really good, emotional, satisfying ending where I thought it's going to cut to the credits, and then it just had this tiny bit at the end where I was like, oh, no, you didn't need that. But overall, I laughed, I cried. I thought this was a beautiful movie. For me, this is a nailed-on 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd say watching the trailer after you mentioned it in our chat, It does look really good. And I did go to download it this morning to watch it today. I was like, I'm going to have to read subtitles and try and pay attention to where I'm walking. So I had to skip it, but it's definitely going to get watched, hopefully, at the weekend.
I think so. It's just a lovely film.
Yep, definitely. I'm going to look out for that as well.
Yeah. So that's great. So it's Keys to the Heart, 9 out of 10. So that's another hit for this week. That was just going quite well. I don't know how the next one might fare, though. So this is another Netflix one, I think. Is it called Fair Play, Andy?
Yeah, this is riding quite high on the Netflix chart. So this is an erotic thriller that wants to be Basic Instinct meets Fatal Attraction. It's neither. Here's a clip.
How did I get so lucky?
Are you talking about me or your job?
Okay, sorry.
Are you getting married?
We're getting married. I wish we could tell the whole world.
We're gonna have to tell him sooner than later.
Morning.
Morning.
I think it's the right time to admit we're breaking policy.
I hear you're taking over for Quinn. What? I overheard it on a call.
We're gonna go grab a drink. You wanna join?
You made half the big calls last quarter alone.
So, what do you want?
He's promoting me.
Congratulations.
I'm sorry.
Why? I'm so happy for you. Okay.
So I think you kind of got the gist of it there. So Phoebe Denver and Alden Ehrenreich play a happily engaged couple who are working for the same high-tech business company. However, she gets a promotion that he thought he was going to get. And he sinks into a pit of depression and then begins to suspect that his fiancée, in order to get the promotion, maybe slept with the boss, maybe was very extra nice to the powers that be. He becomes increasingly paranoid, and this film is really about the breakdown of a relationship between a happily engaged couple as one partner becomes insanely jealous of the other and insanely resentful of the other. He turns to drink, he gets quite violent with her. As I say, he accuses her of getting the promotion by sleeping with the boss. It's quite an erotic thriller. I was thinking of Scott when I was watching this, because a few weeks ago we were talking about films with too much swearing.
Where are you going here, Andy?
No. Stay with me. Stay with me. We were thinking you were talking about films that had too much swearing in them, right? This has got too much swearing in it. Okay, I don't think there's a line in the entire film which doesn't have the F word in the entire film. And that kind of, I don't like that. I mean, that's just me, maybe, but the F word just proliferates almost every line of the script. It is a good thriller. It is a conundrum. Did she? Because at some point we start to doubt her as the audience as well. Did she actually sleep with the boss? Was she trying to get one up on her fiance? Is he right to be skeptical of her motives and the way she got promotion? Is he wrong? We run the full gauntlet of that through the film. One minute we think, yeah, he's right. Next minute we think, no, he's wrong. We're on her side and then we're on his side. So the script is actually quite good because it bounces us around a little bit and we're never quite sure what really happened until we get to the end of the film. It's done quite well. It received very positive reviews from critics, very high score on Rotten Tomatoes. I found it it's not Basic Instinct and it's not Fatal Attraction, but it kind of just falls just below those two. I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was not a bad thriller. The director is Chloe Dumont, and it's the first time she's ever directed a film, and certainly she directs things very competently. She also wrote the script. I wouldn't have gone out to the cinema to see this, but sitting on my couch at home, flicking through Netflix, coming across it, and seeing how high up it was in the Netflix charts, I thought, yeah, let's have a look. and it's not bad. It's really not bad. Partly because, as I say, at one point we're on her side and the next minute we're on his side. We believe her, then we believe him, then we believe her. And we're being bounced around all over the place with our emotions and our allegiances as we watch this film. And I thought that was quite good and quite clever. So I gave it a 7. Emma.
7?
Yeah.
I was expecting you to say lower than that, actually. So that's
me too.
It would have got an 8 if it hadn't been for the fact that the F word is just in every single line. And I just don't think it's necessary, personally. But again, I'm 61 and a bit old-fashioned, so I don't know.
Well, at 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
That's another hit this week. So that's good. It's a nice week to stay in and put your feet up on the sofa by the look of it with all these streaming hits.
Yes.
So that's not bad at all. What have we got next? So some of us got to catch an early screening of this at Cineworld, and it came out last Friday, and that's Blackberry. And this one does exactly what it says on the tin, or well, on the poster. It's about the rise and fall of the iconic Blackberry phone. Here's a clip.
Yeah, what can I do for you?
Okay, picture a cell phone and an email machine all in one thing. There is a free wireless internet signal all across North America, and nobody has figured out how to use it. It's like the Force. Sorry, have you seen Star Wars?
No.
That guy is sketchy. I don't think he's sketchy. The guy's a shark.
I know how to market it, and I know who we can sell it to. But I want 50% of the company, and I've got to be CEO.
I don't know who you think you are, but deal. Are you joking?
No, I think we've had a massive spate of these sort of real life turned into films, and I'm still never quite sure how to review them. But I thought this one was really quite interesting because obviously I know about the BlackBerry mobile phone, but I don't think I was ever aware of how innovative it was when it first came out. So that in itself was really interesting, sort of kind of finding out how things work and getting some of the baffling bits of science explained in layman's terms, which was quite nice. But I think at that point then started going downhill for me. The story itself, I would quite happily read an article about it, but the film just lost me. There were lots of highlights, interesting bits about how they came to discover this, how they then expanded, and then obviously with the iPhone coming out and how that affected everything that happened. But I sat there and I came out of it bored. I did not enjoy any of the acting, and I don't know. This is where I sort of came down on. I wasn't quite sure how to judge it because I'm assuming there's footage and interviews and people to talk to about this role. So you assume that they've done research about the people, so they should be mimicking them to some degree. But I just didn't find them engaging on the screen at all. I think I can't remember his name, the guy with the bandana who was in the clip at the beginning. I found him quite entertaining, but then at one point he just disappears and you don't really find out until the very end what happened to him. And so I found myself being more perplexed than anything. Although great soundtrack. Again, bit of retro. I really enjoyed that. But I came out not enjoying myself from it, but probably going to go and try and read something separately to learn more about it, I think. Andy, you saw this one.
I've seen this. I'm actually one of those people who's old enough that I actually considered buying a BlackBerry phone at one point. So I do remember them coming out. They were this amazing mobile phone that had a keyboard and then of course Apple comes along and bye Blackberry. And I thought that the film, exactly what you say, Emma, to me, it started off really engaging. I was really interested. I was really into it. And then I just slowly, as it got a little bit more technical, as it got a little bit more to do with the business side of things, and less about the actual characters who were involved, quite colourful characters involved in creating this thing. As it got less and less about them and more about the business side and money and finance and the competition with Apple, I just lost interest. So I thought the first half hour was really interesting, really engaging. I thought the rest of it, I just, like you say, I got bored. It's a one of these bog standard films of showing us, recent history, really. Maybe 20 years from now, tell the story. But, for those of us that still remember almost buying a BlackBerry and being very glad we didn't in the end, I wasn't interested. I just wasn't interested. But I might have been interested 20 years from now. Yeah.
As someone who hasn't seen this yet, how does it compare to something like Tetris, which seems like quite a similar premise for these sorts of movies?
There's a formula to these movies. They are becoming quite formulaic. So meet the people who've got a brainwave. They're so excited about it, blah, blah, blah. And then they get bogged down in the problems. And then there's either a massive high because we succeed or a massive... they're becoming very formulaic, I think, these sort of films. And again, for me, it's too soon to be telling the story. I'm just not interested. It's a bit like, I loved Air that came out earlier this year about, Michael Jordan's. But again, I almost wondered if that wasn't too soon. But I did enjoy that film. But this film, Scott, I just lost interest. I started off interested, and it was a downward curve all the way. Yeah.
I think at one point it just got very shouty.
Very shouty.
Everything seemed to be an argument between somebody. Yeah. I mean, I ended up, I've given this a 4 out of 10.
I gave it a 5, Emma, because of the soundtrack. As you say, the soundtrack was fantastic.
See, this is the point I was worried about, because I have to do the maths, but actually that's quite simple.
Quite obvious.
So, all in all, Blackberry gets a 4.5 out of 10.
Boring.
So that is a miss. Yeah. I think, let's say, there've been loads of them recently.
Yeah. Tell me the story again in 20 years'
better.
time or 30 years' time, and I'll be interested. But not at the
definitely.
Moment. Yeah.
So the last new film is another one for you, Scott, and I'm going to leave the pronunciation of this to you because I've been trying all day and I don't want to offend people.
Thanks, Emma. I'm not 100%
Welcome.
sure that I can rattle it off.
Good move, Emma.
So this one was a cinematic release. It is called Mission Raniganj, I believe. Something like that. This is a Hindi film which stars one of my favourite actors, Akshay Kumar. And this is based on a true story about a mining disaster. Here's a clip.
So I have got a clip for this, and I have to apologise to everyone this time because I couldn't find one with subtitles. But you get to see some of the action. So here we go.
गांव वाले बहुत आक्रोश में हैं। हैंड रख।
ये जसवंत सिंह गिल, the rescue trained officer.
65 माइनर्स अभी भी लापता हैं।
I don't think they could be alive.
रह गए होंगे सबके सब। नीचे अगर एक भी जिंदगी सांस ले रही है, तो वो हमारे इंतजार में। अरे हम लोग जिंदा हैं।
क्या इन दोनों में से एक जगह को एंट्री पॉइंट बना सकते हैं?
Not possible, sir. पानी का फोर्स बहुत ज्यादा है।
कोई कुछ नहीं बता रहा है क्यों का हालत में हमारी मदद कीजिए सर।
Looks good.
Yeah, I'm sure just looking at that clip, that's something that can sell you on this, hopefully. This film, we see films similar to this before, and one that it reminded me of before I watched the film was 13 Lives from last year, a couple of years ago, about the boys, the football team that was trapped in the cave. And it's got a similar sort of narrative in a way for people that are looking a way into a film like this. Essentially what we've got is a group of miners that are working underground, and at one point water starts coming into the mines. The mines get flooded, people try to escape. Some of them manage to escape in time, others are not so fortunate. So what we know is that there's a bunch of miners still underground, and they need to try and rescue them. So we've got Akshay Kumar's character, who is a mining engineer called Jaswant Singh Gill, and he is this calm, composed sort of guy who comes in, and he's very thoughtful. He listens to what everyone else is doing. Some of the people are already giving up. A lot of the people that are there, they're thinking about it from personal reasons, they're thinking about it from financial reasons, and they would quite happily just apologise, say they're dead, and then carry on. Whereas Gil has hope, and he makes a point to try to do what he can to rescue them. Now, this means that we've got various different plans going on at the same time, and we see the perspective above ground of the people trying to rescue them, and we see the people below ground who are trapped, and the kind of necessity that they have to try and survive, and the bickering that can go on when they're in trouble. We also have a sort of typical Bollywood film in that we get a little bit of a song and dance number here and there. We've got a great score going throughout. Gil's wife is pregnant, and we see clips of her. She is super composed. Her husband is in this really stressful situation trying to save all these people, but she's like, nah, he's got it. It's fine. Which is just amazing. This is another one of those films where I kind of knew before going in that I was going to enjoy it. It looked like it was going to be a good plot. It's got one of my favourite actors in it, who, again, he was terrific. He almost always is. I highly recommend, if you haven't seen films by Akshay Kumar, I will recommend you guys a few of the top ones. I think there's a few on Netflix right now as well that I can point you to. This film is another one where Monday I saw Keys to the Heart, gave it 9 out of 10. Tuesday night I saw this one, and it's another 9 out of 10.
So, great. Thanks for that, Scott. So, Mission is a 9 out of 10 and a hit. So that's great. We'll learn how to pronounce it at some point, I'm sure. That's great. So we've had quite a good lot of films this week. Nice to see for a change. And now is my favourite bit. As temporary host of the show, thank you for going on holiday, Bob. I get to retroactively rescore a film. I listened to last week's episode, which I was travelling for, so couldn't record. And quite frankly, Andy, I was appalled by your score for Saw X. So, as I think, Scott, you've seen it as well, haven't you?
I have seen it now as well.
Yeah. So, we're gonna do some slight rehashing of history. Scott,
I can't remember what I gave it.
What did you give it?
Was it a 5 or 6?
I think you gave it a 10. But yeah, I think it was a 10.
Sounds about right.
Good choice. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, yeah, Emma. I had a great time with this one. I liked the first few Saw films. I think the first 2 are great. The third one's pretty good too. Spiral was okay. A lot of the ones in the middle, I don't think I've seen or I can't remember seeing. However, this one, which places itself sort of in between the first and second films, is a lot more focused, as Andy had pointed out last week, on the story of John and his medical condition that he is dealing with. We get the drama from his side of it, and I thought that was actually really good and really interesting to see that dramatic performance from him that we see during this section. And then we really get into the good stuff. When he's got these people who he's getting revenge on later in the movie, we've got him setting up all these different people and all the different traps, and then it's just a good old gore fest with inventive torture devices. I do love the bloody gory stuff sometimes when it actually has a decent enough plot behind it and there's good reason for it. And yeah, I enjoyed what was happening to these people. Well, that makes me sound horrible. I enjoyed the creativity of what was happening to these people in a movie perspective. And I enjoyed the logic behind why it was happening to them. He does bad things to bad people, remember, Andy. It's not like he takes a lot of innocent people and does bad things to them.
Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely fine. I'm not saying he does. For me, it wasn't a great movie. For me, it was a bit exploitative. It was gory. It was grim. It was grisly. I enjoy a horror film as much as anybody, but for me, a little bit of it didn't make any sense either. I mean, I'm not sure. I've not spoken to a brain surgeon recently, but I'm not sure if you can actually pluck out a bit of your own brain and whether that was
minor details, Andy.
Minor details.
We don't think,
absolutely.
We don't involve logic in these movies.
Okay. Of course not. As long as it looks cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
I mean, there are tribes in Africa that pull your brain out from inside your nose. So,
yeah. I mean, that's about the Egyptians and the mummification. So
it is. It is. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's possible. Maybe.
Sure. Let's go with it. Yeah. Why not? But yeah. No, I agree with you, Scott. I enjoyed this in the bizarre way that I enjoy gory things for the cinematic reasons. Nothing else. But I really like this one. Like, again, I think I've only seen maybe the first two, and then Spiral, which I really loved. I love this one as well, and I think it is because there is that dramatic bit of story. So it does. I did have to lean over because there are a couple of people that popped up in it, and I was like, "Oh wait, like." Their characters, like they're actually from another film. So luckily I got someone with me who had seen them all, and I was like, who was that one? Who was this one? So I was getting that feedback, so it probably would have helped context at the time. But yeah, I just really enjoyed the fact that you get that story at the beginning about his health and what he's trying to do about it, and then it basically turns into a revenge plot. And like you say, it bad people having bad things done to them. So
I will grant you it had a semblance of a plot, which was a very pleasant change for a film of this nature. So I will grant you that.
Thank you.
We're winning him round, Emma.
Yeah.
I might give it one extra point.
So Scott, what would you?
I would have given this one an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I think I said the same on that, didn't I? And I think, Andy, you were a 6.
Okay. Chalk me up for a 7 then. But
I'm quite happy for when Bob's back to check it.
No
and
problem.
Then retroactively.
I think it was a 6, actually. I think it was a 6.
So, I mean, we sort of just pushed it over into the good one. But yeah, I think it's definitely better than some of the ones in the middle, like you say. Although
the ones in the middle were eminently forgettable.
Exactly.
They really were. But this one at least had a semblance of a plot and some motivation to doing what he did.
I did have to text a couple of friends because I was sitting waiting for one of the screenings to start this week in town, and people were talking about Saw X, and one of them said, well, of course, the best one is Saw 6. And I was like, that's right. That's like in the middle. That can't be true. But I have not seen that one, so I don't know. But
I don't know if I've seen that one.
It's a revenge
I think they should have had their press accreditation revoked just for that alone.
They might be right, Emma. We just don't remember.
It's a revenge movie. He'd have saved himself a lot of time and trouble if he just shot him, basically.
Where's the fun in that?
But that's like every Bond villain, Andy. You know,
Yeah.
you know how these go.
Boring.
I'm only teasing you guys, but you know, we wouldn't have many films if that was the case. I mean, Indiana Jones would shot the guy with the sword, so you know, which is my favourite moment in my favourite film.
Well, so we've just made Saw X a hit, I think, but you know,
yeah,
just couldn't let you get away with that, Andy.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. It's only a movie, guys.
We were talking about good horror films. That is a good horror film, I think.
It's a good gory film. I mean, horror films fall into different categories, don't they? So you've got the supernatural, Exorcist type stuff. You've got the gory stuff, Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Horror films fall into different categories. Psychological horror,
like Emma was talking about earlier.
Exactly. Or Mother, which I think is a really psychological horror film. Ghost stories like The Others, with the Nicole Kidman film, which I love.
Great film.
So I think they all fall into different categories. So I think in terms of it being a gory horror movie, in the tradition of gory horror movies, but it doesn't get much gorier than plucking your own brain out. So
very true. Oh, dear. So on to any other business. I don't think we've got much this week. I was just going to do a quick roundup. Obviously, as of recording, London Film Festival still got a couple of days left of it, but I saw my last film this year this morning, which was really good. That was One Life with Anthony Hopkins. Very good. Made me cry. I knew I was going to cry. It was just going to happen. I won't go through all of the films I saw. Obviously, it would just take too long. But things to look out for until like running up to the end of the year. Just some highlights for you. There's The Killer that is coming to Netflix. That's a thriller starring Michael Fassbender as a hitman. Very good. I mean, it did take me a while to decide it was good, but it was in the end very good. The Bike Riders, which is a story following the rise of a motorcycle club in the 60s, and that's got Austin Butler, Jodie Comer and Tom Hardy in it. Jodie Comer was absolutely amazing. She had more lines than everyone else in the film put together, but it was just incredible, so that's well worth catching.
I think that one's got some Oscar buzz as well, actually.
It wouldn't surprise me. It was really interesting. It evolves really well. There are lots of like extra characters added in throughout, so that you get a real idea of like how that club turns into a gang, essentially. So yeah, well worth catching that one. And the last one I want to recommend is The Boy and the Heron, which is the latest Studio Ghibli offering.
Okay.
Now, I'm not an expert on the other films. Everyone raves about them though, and I watched this. It's very much in keeping with their style, obviously. Some very cute creatures, and yeah, just a really interesting like way of conveying the story, which definitely worth seeing. And I'm sure everyone who is a fan of their stuff has already got it on their watch list anyway.
I'm definitely looking forward to that.
I'm looking forward to that.
I've seen all the Ghiblis at least once. I'm a bit hit or miss with a lot of them, but it's Miyazaki's last film again. So I'm really very curious about this one.
My favourite of the Ghibli ones is When Marnie Was There, which is probably
I love that
the
one.
least sensational in terms of fictional creatures, but it's a bit of a time travel movie. I think Marnie Was There is beautiful. Love that film.
Great. Well,
we ought to mention that there is a horror film, another horror film returning to cinemas on Saturday, which is about this girl who has terrifying powers to freeze people at will. I think Frozen is absolutely terrifying. The powers that she possesses are just worse than Freddy or Jason, or much more scarier than those guys. So, you know, there is another horror movie out this weekend to mention. Let it go.
Yeah,
Let it go.
Yeah, You had me going there for a minute. I was like, oh my God, did I miss something? But yes, no.
When you think
Disney
about it, it's
100.
terrifying. You could just freeze people at will.
It's true. It's true. Terrifying ice monster.
I thought you were going to mention another classic that's coming back tomorrow, actually. Friday the 13th is being shown on Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th, yes, absolutely. Yes.
Not the best of the bunch by a long way. To be fair, none of them are very good.
No.
Although I do quite like the fourth one.
But if you've never seen it or seen it on the big screen, next Wednesday, cinemas are showing Christine, which is my favourite of all the Stephen King adaptations. It's nowhere near as good as the book. I mean, the book is about that long, you know, and the film's about that long, and they cut a lot out. But I think Christine's a fantastic John Carpenter film. I've seen it twice now at the cinema. I've got the Blu-ray. Just go see it on the big screen. Christine, I think, is a great Stephen King adaptation. And it's back in cinemas next Wednesday.
There are a lot of good horrors being released over the next couple of weeks. So going to try and
Exorcist
catch
Believer
some of
as
them.
well.
And that one, yeah.
And Saw X. No, moving on.
Although I did also see, which I was going to watch and review, but didn't have time, there's another Pet Sematary that's come out.
Oh, no, please, no.
It came out on Friday.
We've had two.
Where?
I can't remember what the subtitle to it is, but I think it was on Paramount Plus.
Oh.
Oh wow.
Paramount Plus, whatever.
I mean, again, the book is genuine. I went through this phase of reading all Stephen King novels. The book is genuinely creepy, but neither of the two films have captured the essence of the creepiness of the book. You know, the genuine makes you feel unnerved sort of sensation that you get from reading the book. I don't think either of the two films have captured that. But not another one, please. Oh.
Sorry to point that one out to you then. But so that's us for this week. Thank you for your opinion got better, Andy. It's fine about Saw X. But thanks. I've definitely got some more to add to my watch list from today's recording. And next week, obviously, we'll be back to normal with Bob knowing what to do. So that's great. So, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you all next week.
Thank you so much for listening or watching Flickering Dreams. You can find the video version on YouTube and the audio version on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get each of the weekly episodes as they are released. We'll see you at the movies.